Welcome to the podcast for G's only. For G's only. And it's for all women who's at the C-suite level. CEO. And we coming your way to share our stories in leadership. So we walking the walk, talking the talk, being the boss lady. Welcome to the C-suite, where we help build women leadership and how to be the boss lady. So welcome to the C-suite. So let's talk about being a CEO.
Hello, and welcome to C-Suite's podcast with your host, Dr. Jodi Hood. And today we have an interesting topic, but before then, let me tell you about the suite. This is a place where C-Suite's women can compare and share unfiltered realities that our male counterparts in the suite will never face. We laugh, we cry, we thrive, and we survive. Now, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about a topic that you're going to say, it's 2024. Why are we still talking about that? But our topic today is looks matter. I know, ladies, you're like, we're not over that yet. But honey, let me tell you, I was reading an article and it was written by Anna Marie Hollis. And the name of the article is, Does Your Appearance Affect Your Executive Presence? And as I began to read, I said this would be an interesting topic for the podcast for my C-suite women and my aspiring C-suites. Now, I know what you're thinking. Unfounded judgments, shame, and discrimination should have no place at work, right? But research suggests that people who are deemed attractive earn about 20% more than those who are considered average. Now, this isn't what we feel, this isn't what we think. This is research. So what does that mean? It means that putting yourself together could beget a bigger paycheck. However, too much makeup and controversial clothing pieces are considered unprofessional, which also means that managing our appearance is a juggling act. So ladies, let me tell you something. If you're worried about how your appearance affects your executive presence, you're not the only one. And while we wish we could live in a workplace, or we could live and work in a place that didn't judge books by their covers, it's not happening, folks. Studies have found, though, that there are 5 ways that looks can impact our C-suite career. So I need you to run and get some paper and a pencil, or take out the note app to write these down, because they are very helpful. And again, remember, this is a place where we talk about women issues in the suite that men will never have to face. Now, the first one, well, I don't think men would have to face this one, is too much makeup. Too much makeup. Now, I am one who loves makeup. I'm just going to tell you. But I try to be modest and I try to keep it natural. So let me tell you this. Too much makeup could make you seem untrustworthy. Alrighty. Is that something that we think? Is that something that we heard? Oh no. In 2011, researchers looked into ways in which people perceive others, and they found some interesting insights about appearances in the workplace. This is what happened. The researchers photographed 25 white, African American, and Hispanic women from 20 to 50 years old with natural, professional, and glamorous looks, as well as barefaced. I know you're sitting on the edge of your seat wondering what were those results. Well, let me tell you. From there, 149 adults reviewed the images for 250 milliseconds, which scientists say is just enough time to make a snap decision about someone. And another 119 adults were allowed to look at the same faces for as long as they wanted. Here are the results. Overall, they generally considered the women with makeup to be more competent than those without it. But the more time they had to look at and evaluate the faces, the more they thought the women with glamorous makeup looked and seemed to be untrustworthy. Baby, when I talk about a juggling act in the suite, Jesus Christ. Women, we don't have it easy, but we do get the job done. Now, next, did you know that some clothing items aren't as welcome at work as others? I'm pretty sure that's like a no-brainer, but it's not just makeup in the workplace. Research has shown that how you dress can also affect your executive presence. What do the studies suggest? Well, they suggest that employees are offended by cleavage, clothes that are too transparent, short, and flip-flops at work. Now, I have a problem with flip-flops. I'm just going to tell you. Don't like the flip-flops. But other research indicates that wearing black may be one of the safer choices in the workplace, and certainly over the color orange, which takes a lot of heat in the professional realm. So, clothing, it also matters in the suite. But actually, I would say not even in the suite, just depending on where you work. You can dress up, you can dress two down. So it is imperative that you seek out the dress code and what's in the employee handbook when we are talking about our clothing and what's appropriate. But this research is clearly about executive people who are working in the suite. Now, here's something else. Now, baby, I'm just going to tell you, I don't wear a lot of designer clothes, but I love me a designer bag all day long. All day long. And my friends know that I have so many purses, I could start a resale shop. But here, this is what research is saying. Designer labels could come off the wrong way. Now, research, and now remember, we're talking about research. Research indicates that people who wear designer labels may come off as unwilling to work with others. Now, how they came up with that, I don't know. But this is what they say. This is because they may be perceived as showing off their wealth and social status. And on the other hand, people who don't rock high caliber brand names at work appear more cooperative and collaborative. Well, that's what the research says. So it is generally assumed that signaling status and signaling status can strategically benefit people who want to appear high class. Why else would people pay premium for products with luxury logos that have no other functional benefits? But let me tell you, it can also backfire by making people seem more self-interested. That is what a lead researcher, her name is Shalina Schnarr, PhD, and she's also associate professor at marketing of University of Michigan Law School, said in a release statement. So in social situations that depend on cooperation, like the workplace, and specifically we're talking about the suite, people will often choose to present themselves more modestly. Now, for leaders, talking about the C-suite executives, being approachable is important, especially if you work closely with your team of direct reports. Now, here is something that is becoming more controversial because with these, I want to say the Xers, the Gen Xers, and the millennials, I think more of that generation are tatted and pierced up. So here, tattoos are no-goes for some people in the workplace. Now, let me tell you this. My daughter is she has a few tats, and some of them I didn't know until she wore clothing that was more revealing. I was like, oh my God, you got a tat. And I'm cool. I try to be cool. I try to be hip. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my, she has a tattoo. But oh my God, why did it have to be so big? But she was really smart because it's on her arm. And when she's going for interviews, it's covered up. And she also has a couple of piercings, like her nose is pierced. And I said to her, look, I'm not trying to be old fogey, but when you're going to job interview, if you don't know the culture of the company, how about you just keep the tats covered and don't wear the nose ring? I'm just saying. And you know what she said to me? I thought she was going to give me pushback. She said, Mom, I never thought about that. She says, I think I'll take you at it. Now, this is my take on that. It's better to be safe than sorry. So you cover them up, you take it out, and you make it there. And everybody, the culture of the workplace, everybody has tats. Everybody's pierced up. Well, then but until I say be on the safe side. Now, look, tons of people have tattoos, which are arguably becoming less and less taboo in the workplace. As I just said, instead, more and more tattoos are celebrated. So self-expression, after all, is something that many modern workplaces encourage, especially amidst a large business and interest in diversity. But unfortunately, not everyone is on the same page about the ink. And I think that comes from intergenerational workplace, as I just said, because I believe boomers may have more of a problem with the ink. But here's research. 67% of 35 to 49-year-olds say that tattoos are acceptable in the workplace. In the 35, 49, that would be Gen Xers, I think. Maybe the low end or the high end of millennials. But 61% of people who are 50 years and up find tattoos to be distracting. Thus, the boomers. Alrighty. Now, some people perceive unstyled hair as unprofessional. And you have to be careful with the hair because it can be discriminatory. Now, my son is a cop. And when he was going through the academy, he has long hair and he keeps it braided. And I was thinking to myself, I know you're not going to the academy with braided hair, but of course, with laws about hair, and especially for African Americans, it's acceptable. So let me tell you this. What does the research say? Endless research suggests that your hair can also impact how people perceive you at work. Now, here's an example. A study from Australia suggests that red hair is deemed the least professional shade. Now, that's in Australia. The same study suggests that people who let their hair down, as opposed to tying it up, are considered less proficient. Now, here it doesn't talk about gender. So I don't know if they're talking about men with red hair and men who will let their hair down, or women, or both. Now, again, we're going to go back to this bias against natural hair. Now, it has also been shown the bias to limit job opportunities for people of color in the workplace. Thus, the conversation with my son about him having his hair braided. Now, black hair and hair texture are part of the racial battleground for social justice, researchers say. So providing the natural hair discrimination is alive and pervasive in the workplace. That's what I was worried about my son. But now let's talk about this example in a study. It says one study found that straightening hair is associated with being clean, professional, feminine, and pretty. And so we're talking about women is sweet. So meanwhile, Afro hair is considered wild and radical. And dreadlocks are associated with being, get this ladies, ghetto nasty, and gross, and even tied to drug use. Man, we have a long way to go, but unfortunately, I'm telling you, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but looks matter. Now, natural black hair has been called a civil rights issue for that reason of the stereotypes about hair. Now, that same son I was telling you about, whose hair is braided, he has the nerve to say he prefers women whose hair is not natural. Hold on just a second. And I say to him, the nerve of you. But I guess people have their preferences. So we're about to come to an end. I hope you gained something from this podcast talking about looks matter. So just let me say this. Let me end with this. With so much conflicting research out there deciding what to wear to work or what to wear to the interview to land your job, it really can be overwhelming. So my next podcast, I am going to talk about advice and tips on interview attire and tips for mastering business casual. So that will be the next podcast. So until then, everybody, could you please just do me a favor? And that would be, could you like me on Facebook? That's Jodi Hood. Could you connect with me on LinkedIn? That's Dr. Jodi Easterling Hood. How about subscribe to me? Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Alrighty. Until next time, what are we going to do? We're going to keep walking the walk and talking the talk. Is that all right? And C-Suites, guess what? The She-Suites are coming at ya.
Welcome to the podcast for G's only. For G's only. And it's for all women who's at the C-Suite level. CEO. And we coming your way to share our stories in leadership. So we walking the walk, talking the talk, being the boss lady.